Good morning, starshine.
Welcome to the real world. Whoa!
Mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin with green air. There's no second best, okay?
GM. Thursday, 29th of August. Trade of the day. GM. So, what are we looking at here? We've got BTC in this range. We had our breakdown yesterday. We have the market coming back up after a strong shakeout. And so I mentioned yesterday about the potential for moving up to fill this gap. And there's a couple of paths. I think I might have deleted the paths after yesterday's trade of the day. But I mentioned it over here, wherever it was. Let's see. You can see it here from yesterday. Paths. Yesterday's was a nice simple video. Where are we? Here we go. The black path. There we go. This one. So that was on a 1 hour chart down here. You can see it pretty well, right? That we would consolidate, we would take out the lows. Consolidate it, we took out the lows. It then moves up, and then we push up into the gap above. So that looks pretty good. In terms of that trade, I would look at probably seeing it reclaim. So a break of structure above this level would set up some low time frame triggers to ride the momentum. The way you'll see it happen is we'll probably break here and move really quickly into that area, or it'll reject that level and we'll go sideways. And if it rejects that level, then it's going to go lower. And if it accepts there, then it's going to probably push pretty quickly into the 62 area. That's also the bull bear line for me in terms of the overall picture. If this is going to go for another leg down, it's not going to get above 60.5. It's probably going to reject and hold at this area. So following that red path, if it follows that red path, you're going to see a new low. Like almost certainly. That's just how it moves. After these strong moves down, you can get an extra couple of legs where it comes down and has to chop more, and then it starts to build itself up later on, maybe at the start of next month. I do think that this is most likely a local bottom forming close, which could either be right here, right now, or it could go a little bit lower and we have one more sweep. I don't think that there's going to be a significant breakdown below that. However, if it does break below that 58k pivot and falls into here, you don't have to get long. You could just wait for the 58 pivot to get reclaimed, right? If we drop below that level, consolidate, get back inside, I think over here is a no-brainer long. Obviously, there could just be a greater breakdown potential if we lose that level, but we'll see how that goes. I think that'll be seen today. I think today we're going to hit 60.3. I do think we'll hit this high. Question is, do we reject off it or do we accept above it? That'll set the direction, I think, for the rest of the month, as well as moving into the start of September. So for bears, if we fail at these highs, there is another leg down coming, most likely. And for bulls, I think accepting above 60.3, 60.4, you probably see this gap candle, you probably see that fill pretty quickly. So you'd look at that maybe on a lower time frame, maybe around the New York session, you might see a sharp move up that you can trade up into that area. Then when you zoom out, this is where if we do take that first path where it reclaims and pushes back up, I think that if Bitcoin doesn't spend much time down here and pushes back up towards 61, 62, I think that is a pretty strong confirmation that we're bottoming out here and we are going to go higher. Because if it's going to have a second flush down, it should not bounce much. It probably shouldn't get above the bands. It should reject all of this. If it shows anything other than that, it might still be choppy and sideways, but I think it's going to be the market building itself back up through this range. You have to remember as well, if 70k is where it gets really bullish, right? If 70k is where I see no supply overhang and I see a strong next trend possible to happen, it doesn't mean that getting there is going to be easy. There's a lot of volume distributed above. There's a lot of previous price action, a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of gaps, a lot of, overhang of supply that has to be worked its way through. So if Bitcoin just chops and grinds its way through that range towards 70, that's bullish. Rather than it just moving fast, like you can see this, when you have these fast rallies, it baits people in to get long again, flushes down. Fast rally, baits people in, flushes down. So a slower build through that range, working its way through that supply, would be good. And September is actually historically a bearish month for Bitcoin. October, November, December are historically very, very, very good months for Bitcoin. So we're at the end of August. We're heading towards September. August is going to close, probably, is going to close red. Right? We had our big bearish candle at the beginning of the month. It reversed all the way back up. It went green briefly. We're looking like probably it's going to close, I'd say, around here, maybe slightly higher, maybe closes above 60. But I would guess it closes with a long wick and closes red. September, I would expect to see some kind of down wick, and maybe even a red September. Maybe there's another month of chop that has to come. And then as we move towards the election, the historically, seasonally strong times of October, November, that could be where you start to see the market move a little bit more in our favor. Last thing about that would be stocks. Stocks had their big rally off the lows. Attempted breakdown yesterday. Reversing now, but I think it's reversing overnight. I think during the New York session, we closed where? Yeah, so the New York session closed at, 1920. Well, it closed with a rally. So we had a bearish session, but it closed with a rally. It flushed down in the overnight session. It's rallying up now in the pre-market. So you want to wait and see how does that follow through once the New York session actually begins. Because if stocks go for a deeper correction, which they very much can, we could absolutely see stocks pull back into this area and chop around until the election. It's probably going to drag on crypto if you have a deeper pullback. Also, stocks can go for the highs and pull back from there. I do think that before the election, you're going to see another pullback, as there is a tendency for the market to consolidate going into the election rather than trending in one direction or the other. Stocks have had a great trend for basically all this year, so having a couple of months of sideways cooling off is not a bad thing. And what you want to watch then is how does crypto perform in comparison? So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, there's the paths for BTC, I think, are pretty clear today. Whether we get either of these moves today or not, I'm not sure. It might be tomorrow. It might be after the options expiry tomorrow, which is over here. Right, so tomorrow, 8 a.m., that's when the main OPEX happens. You might see us pinned where we stay between 60 and sort of basically 59 and 60. It just stays in this choppy range for another day. And after that, you might see the market taking its next direction. And after you have these impulse moves, you're always going to get sellers who come in to sell a second leg. And of course, people who bet on this being the bottom can get flushed out. So don't be surprised, even if we're bullish, don't be surprised if there is another push before we reaccumulate. Because, as soon as it starts to rally, we get above 60. Same thing's going to happen. People are going, oh, is that the bottom? Do we get long again and again and again and again? And it just can, in these choppy reaccumulation or distribution phases, many, many, many false rallies, many false breakouts, but many false hope rallies. Oh, this is the bottom, is this the bottom, is this the bottom? And it goes and goes and goes and goes. Eventually, you'll see a clear sign, which for me is getting above 60.4, 60.5 and holding. I think then we build our way back through the range. So that's where we're at. And today we do have actually some economic data. It's not the most important, I don't think. I know tomorrow is core PCE, but today we have GDP and unemployment, yeah. So it's preliminary GDP, so it's the second one. We've already had the advance, which is the first one. There's 3 GDP numbers that come out each quarter. The advance is the one that moves the market most because that's like the closest, the first sign we have. Preliminary is probably going to be similar. It's probably going to meet expectations. And unemployment claims, important in a sense, but that's a weekly thing, so it's not super important. So tomorrow's PCE, that's the big one. And That's where we're at. That's it. GM. See you later for all coin requests. And White Belt Wednesday, which I'm moving to Thursday because shitty hotel Wi-Fi. See you then. GM.